You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, and I'm your host, Greg E. Hill, the Culture Change Agent. Shout out to Locke Shaw, man. The intro never gets old. Every time I hear it, I start bouncing. I love it, I love it, I love it. I know it's Friday. I give you the podcast every Thursday. I messed up. Please charge it to my head, not my heart. So let's get into the show. I'm not fluffing you with 8 minutes of me just talking on the mic. I ain't DJ Khaled. I ain't Funk Master flexing it. You hear my voice for another hour anyway. So I'm gonna say what I got to say. Outside of, please make sure you leave a review. If you haven't already, we at like 130. We need to get to like 150 by the end of the year. So please make sure you leave a review. Next episode, I'll probably be giving some giveaways for those that leave a review. So give you some incentive, but make sure you leave a review. Follow us on SoundCloud. Share the episodes that you find that you really get something from. And thank y'all for the love on Twitter, Peter Dutton, for love on Facebook, Janelle Collins, so many others for the Twitter love, the email love, the LinkedIn love. I really appreciate it. I read everything. Even if I don't respond immediately, I read everything, and I do not take it for granted. When they continue to bring quality episodes from the up-and-coming new wave, because guess what? Even if some of the people you don't know now, I guarantee within the next year, the next 2 years, next 5 years, you will know them. And you can say you heard them first on the Minority Trailblazer podcast. And on that note of breaking in new people, the comedy scene is a scene like no other, where every day outside of Kevin Hart, you see new comedy stars pop up on, not Vine anymore, rest in peace, but on Instagram, on Twitter, of just in general, the comedy space has grown to a pace where you can find laughter and love and memes and everything all over line. But there's still not a central hub for it. And the man that we have today is building what he likes to dub the ESPN of comedy, of storytelling, of when you want to find info and the new scoop on the what's going on in the comedy scene, you go to his website. When you want to find a new artist is breaking in on the comedy scene, you go to his website. When you want to find a network, a podcast that deals specifically with comedy, you go to this man's website. And I'm talking about none other. I can't release his name because I usually don't release his name until I introduce him to the show. So let me read his bio real quick and then we go get into it. And I guarantee his story of perseverance, his story of the hustles, the many hustles he had before he even started comedyhype.com, because that's the name of the website. I mean, the dude woke up every morning at 4 a.m., drove an hour and a half to cut grass while he was working on his website, while he was working on his baby, all this other stuff. It's crazy to me. And while in the meantime, his mom is still sending him job applications while he's a full-time entrepreneur trying to get the dream on. Like, his mom is sending you need to go apply to this job. But how disheartening can that be? You in here grinding, putting in work. You got people sending you applications. So don't tell, moms, you know what they do, but you still love them, but you still persevered and kept pushing out. And now he has a platform and thousands of followers and thousands of people that subscribe to his emails and that are hooked online to the network the budding network that he's building. So let me get into his bio. Let me get to the interview because there's a lot of jewels being dropped on it. So he's an Atlanta-based entrepreneur. And he first started his whole journey in the web design at 22. And he has since created a digital platform, which I just mentioned, comedyhype.com, that focuses solely on comedy and the entertainers who make us laugh. I mean, he credits his early awareness to internet's influence on comedy to Comedy Hype's mega success. Through many sleepless nights and studying HTML coding, which is not fun. He created ComedyHype.com itself into a mobile-friendly platform with the ability to adapt to the ongoing changes of technology. I mean, people are getting most of the laughs online. He said, a platform that can be on the forefront of distribution in the comedy field. Now, as an expert in comedy within the digital space, he also designs, develops, consults, speaks, and writes about building websites for comedians, businesses, and entrepreneurs. He is also a freelance photographer, and no doubt he is a major influencer in the digital space. So like I tell you, you need your comedy fix. You want to learn more about entrepreneurship in the real talk. This ain't no like, oh, here's the steps to build this. No. We're going to talk about the pitfalls. And this doesn't just apply to entrepreneurs. This applies to people that want to change the space that they're in. People that want to be minority trailblazers in the space that they're in. People just want to take things to the next level, and this is about to be a phenomenal conversation. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my brother, Jon Williams, to the Minority Trailblazer Podcast. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? How you doing, Greg?
Man, I'm doing phenomenal, man. I'm ready just to get right into it. You ready, man?
Let's get into it.
All right, man. All right. So first and foremost, and I don't know if I shared with you, before every episode, we start the show off with a quote, and then we share a story on how they use that quote in their everyday lives.
Man, I love that. There's like several different things that gravitate towards me. Mm-hmm. One being trust the process. I don't know if that's something you've heard here, but that to me is a mantra that like really helps me get through a lot of those rough times, those battles that I think a lot of entrepreneurs face. And trust the process. Another one is marathon. One of my favorite rappers right now is Nipsey Hussle, and he speaks about that a lot. And to me, that's a representation of trusting the process. So,
with that being said, though, do you have one particular story of how you use that? Because I know you said everyday life, because being especially online in the digital space, there's always hiccups. There's always something. So can you share with our audience one story about how you apply that process or those quotes to your everyday life?
Man, it's just taking those L's. Taking those L's, like, to be transparent, I took a recent L with the company. We're a digital platform. So, of course, like any company, you think about expanding and what else you can do. What's the next move? And one was recently, getting into live shows. That's something I don't have a background in. And we had a live show. It was actually a roast battle that we did. And we promoted the live show. And we thought people were going to show up because we have this, nice following online. And due to weather and some other circumstances, it was a no-show type of event. To me, that's a very humbling when you experience that, when you see that, even when you have success in a different lane. But I had to kind of eat it up and understand it is a process. I don't have background in live events. My thing is that I'm kind of a go-getter. So that means like I don't wait a lot. A lot of entrepreneurs are people who I don't think wait around, right? Because we got up and we said, we're going to make this happen. So I don't do that a lot of times. And when I do that, I kind of just take the shot without maybe being even prepared to take it. I'm just fearless like that, where I'll just take the shot. And sometimes when you take that shot, you do catch an L. I will say that. And then, to answer your question, I do fall into that, trust the process and understand that, okay, with that, I did learn some things, and I won't approach it, the same way I did the first time. So,
oh man! So first of all, thank you for sharing that experience, because first, it's so hard now in this space where you can have a massive following online, but to have that translate is very difficult. Because I was talking to a friend. I want to get there with a podcast. About him, Dormtainment. And it was one of the guys. He said when they first started, they had their YouTube channel has probably over 1 million subscribers and whatnot. And he said it was such a grind to fill out a 300-room show in New York. Like they promoted for months to get a live show. I'm talking about 1 million subscribers online. And it didn't translate. So I think that goes, especially as an entrepreneur nowadays, you can have all these followers, but you really have to pinpoint what your strong suit is to kind of get people, get that to translate. But could you share with the audience, though, what is like the one lesson or a couple lessons you learned from that experience?
Just from that experience is like, don't let your success go to your head, too. It's very humbling. Like I was saying, you win in one lane doesn't mean you're going to win in the next. You still got to go through that process.
Yep.
Haven't been through any process with live shows. And I'm thinking just because we got a little buzz going online that we can be able to pull it off on a live event. And that's not true, because the guy that's promoting in your city that's out here, he's the man right now. I'm sure he went through his process to kick off his first live show. But can that translate to an internet website? It's probably the same way. It probably can't. So everything deserves a process. That's one thing I learned. Another thing I learned through that recent experience is something that is already known, the unexpectancy of the game. You know, some people like, I had contenders for it. I looked online, I was on Instagram, and one of the gentlemen who was supposed to compete in the event, instead of sending us an email, he left a comment saying, damn, I wish I could be there. And he was like in another city. So wow, that right there, that changes the shift of the show dynamically, you know, dramatically. And you have to be prepared for the unexpected. That's with any entrepreneur, even coming to do this interview, to be upfront. Like there were set times, but guess what? It didn't go that way. Yeah. You know? And that's part of the game. And I don't know if whoever jumps into that field has to understand that unexpectancy is always around the corner.
Yeah, yeah, and to speak to that, it's like people that have been following the podcast know a couple episodes I've been talking about freaking my face almost exploded. Like I woke up one day and I was like, cool, we got this podcast going on, we doing this, and then for the next week I was at home healing up, and it's like that altered this podcast, that altered a lot of different things. But as an owner, you just always have to adjust. And it's crazy that you posted that and the guy that was supposed to be there is like, dang, I should be there. It's like, you looking like, bro, what do you mean? Like, you're a focal point of the event, dog. Without you, that changes everything.
Right.
So to get to, but before we get into Comedy Hype, because I want to touch on that, let's talk about your background and where you come from. Because first, and then segue into this founding of Comedy Hype, because are you a comedian?
No, not a comedian at all.
Yeah, so definitely share this story, how you got into this comedy lane and developed this expertise, man.
Most definitely. I mean, mine started off just a genuine love for comedy, man. I'm sure you got a favorite comedian, or the people listening got a favorite comedian. And us being minorities, you know, they're going to be people that look like us, that make us laugh. And I just remember, this is like during the boom of like you know, certain platforms were popping up, your Vlad TVs, your World Stars, those, you know, minority kind of based like platforms were popping up. And you saw the impact of what a website can do for multimedia. And I remember looking at like Comedy Central to kind of just put it out there, like not seeing nobody that looked like me. New guys, I want to laugh. You know? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to laugh, and not to say that they're not funny, but I want to laugh at the time Earthquake was like my dude, like Earthquake comedian. And I wasn't seeing his new stuff come out repeatedly, and he wasn't being pushed in my face. And for me, I felt like, okay, if we can't impact them on a channel, it might take me a minute to get an actual channel. I know I can get a website, you know, so that was a little bit more accessible. And so that's what we did. And I started off as the Laughing Barrel at first. To give you more of a background, it started off as a Laughing Barrel, and I was curating.
A Laughing Barrel? What's that?
The Laughing Barrel.
Oh, okay.
It's a play on the Laughing Barrel, a quick history moment. It's something that I learned, that the slaves used to have to laugh in barrels so that the owner, the slave owner, would not be able to see them laugh. Wow. So yeah, it was like a deep message behind it, and I thought this was something that represented us. Like, yo, we're gonna come here for our laughs. So a lot of times I put a lot of urban content, stuff that spoke to me. It was a variety of different things, and then through time, it kind of came to become comedyhype.com.
Oh man, that's dope, man. So before comedyhype.com though, did you go to school or how'd you even get into graphic design? Like what's your backstory before that?
Man, to take it back, I could take it to like high school. I mean, the interesting fact is I grew up in Hawaii.
For real? You ain't from Georgia?
Nah, I was born in Georgia, but I grew up in Hawaii from the age of at 6 years old to the 11th grade in high school.
Oh man.
So that got a lot of my upbringing out there. And definitely was like the only minority kid, black kid coming up. Yeah. Everyone's minority, excuse me, but like only black kid coming up in that school. So that was part of my life. And then I moved to Birmingham, and then from there, I ended up in Atlanta. And the way I got kind of into the internet stuff was more of, I've always been an entrepreneur in my state. You know, you're trying to create these different things. Honestly, before the Laughing Barrel, there was probably about 3 to 4 different other projects. I was like, this is going to be it.
Was it all in the online space, or was it different things?
It was different things. You know, I was, man, like I feel like I touched it all to like at one point, I think I was trying to do like a men's jewelry line.
Uh-huh.
The vibe was talking about men being kings, you know, something on simple terms of men being kings and us being in control of our destiny. And I had a whole campaign for it, and I bought boxes and I did my research. I was making these men bracelets or with crowns on them. I was doing stuff like that. I've always been in that mind state. Yeah, but a lot of the work has been into the online space. A lot of my recent projects or my projects after that has been in online space.
Man, so quick question on that, because I see multiple businesses. What are some things? How do you pivot though? Because I know sometimes you get started on something. When do you know when it's time to maybe adjust or change lanes? Because it seems like you have a lot of experience in that.
When adjust or change lanes, you know, you got to be honest with yourself. To be honest with you, you got to know when it's not hitting. But a lot of times, to kind of even be more honest with it, a lot of the stuff I wasn't being thorough in how I was executing my steps early on. I didn't know the importance of consistency like I do now. Mm-hmm. Back then, I was starting stuff and they were grand ideas, but I wasn't following through. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people miss that point of consistency. A lot of people, if they had consistency mixed into what they're doing and just stay at it every day, it has no choice but to develop and become better. Mm-hmm. That's why, to take it all the way back, I say trust the process, because the process is a development. So honestly, those ideas weren't bad. I just didn't have that consistency. So to kind of answer your question, what's the things, or when do I know to switch it up? Is that what you were asking me?
Yeah.
When I know switch up, I mean, obviously when it's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But I do have this mentality of like, I think if it's a great idea, it's a great idea. And you should be able to, if you consistently work it, I feel like it's going to come to fulfillment. That's just me. Yeah. So Comedy Hype might be taking a longer process compared to another platform, but I believe in it so much that I'm willing to be patient and continue to do the work to see this thing fulfill into the vision I see it becoming.
Man, that's huge. And when you first started, let's get into Comedy Hype. When you first started comedyhype.com, was it just yourself, or did you already have a team?
I mean, this goes into it. It was myself. And then along the way, I ran into a gentleman he's actually my best friend now. His name is Jon Williams. Mm-hmm. I ran into him. I met him at a pool party. Uh-huh. And I told him, like, yo, man, I'm running this. You know, I told him what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I was getting a little bit of buzz with the website, and I needed help. And I reached out to him, and he came on as a partner. Unfortunately, he had to do some life stuff, which meant, you know, he couldn't sacrifice a lot of those hours and times, and he ended up moving to New York. Mm-hmm. So with that process, I had to carry the platform by itself for most of for the remaining of years. Mm-hmm.
So now when you operate the site, is you and you have contributors and the other team, right?
Yeah, I have contributors and definitely the beauty of what you're kind of capturing me now in my transparent state is developing the team part, where you start becoming maybe more of a company. So I have somebody that's going to help with press, right? I never had that before. Or to be 1,000, like, I don't even know how I was able to. I have someone that even locked in this interview, right?
Yeah, she reached out like, man, it's official over here, man.
So that's new for me, and that was that was the last couple months. Now you have people that are contributors, like you said, in different cities, but that's all a learning process that I'm going through right now. How do I manage these different people to contribute and show passion for something you're passionate about continuously? So you got to motivate people a little bit. You gotta learn how to really treat people, you know, make people feel that they're a part of something. So it's a lot of stuff that I'm learning along the way, and that's where you're catching me at right now.
Oh man, that's real, and I can definitely relate 110% to that, because even growing out what I'm doing, it's cool eventually when you start buzzing a little bit to get people on board and say, hey, I want to do what you do. But to have them consistently want to do that for weeks on end, especially on a digital online space, because it's not like, in my perspective now, I have an office, but I don't have an office for other people. I don't have a convenient place. So in the online space, it's a little bit even more difficult to really build that community and build that base, man. So I can definitely tip my hat to that. But what's in the pipeline for, like, what is the whole vision for Comedy Hype? Because I know we talked about it a little earlier, to be in that hub of comedians of color, or just in general. But what is your vision for, like, in the future?
The vision of Comedy Hype, man. I think it really terms of ESPN of comedy. You know, we're minority based, where you mean, like, you see a lot of urban acts, but I really feel that what we're doing is innovative for the comedy game in general. So the vision is just to be that platform that makes comedy more part of your life, or at least how to organize it to make it a part of your life. So if you want to laugh, you can laugh. If you want to know something about your favorite comedian, you can be able to do that through a platform like this. So that's the vision. You wake up and you go to comedyhype.com and you get your laugh.
Oh yeah, like, so this is the spot. Like you said, we go to ESPN for that. We go to Two Dope Boys for exclusive.
Right.
We go to Hot New Hip Hop for this. But
Right.
boom, have this space and whatnot. So a question to that too. Actually, before how have you went about developing partnerships? 'Cause I seen online, like you said, y'all buzz is spreading, and you have major companies are using, okay, Comedy Hype reports that X, Y, and Z. So how have y'all been able to kind of gain that traction and that influence over the last, and y'all only been out since 2011, right?
2011, yeah, Comedy Hype launched. Yes. The basis of that, to answer that question, how do you lock in these partnerships? It comes down, honestly, due to I think a testament of what kind of leader you are. Your brand will reflect that. So if you're thorough, I think people can see that. If you do what you're supposed to be doing, I think those type of brands were willing to take a risk with you. If you want me to answer it more technical, like an email type, like,
no, you don't have to. You don't have to do the email, but or you could kind of give, a little bit more technical, but it don't have to be an email.
Okay, I mean, it's just more of like, what's authentic, what makes sense for your brand. I think, honestly, you got to know what value you bring to the table, right? So a lot of people, I feel they fail. Especially, I was doing this a lot early on. You look at it through your lens and your perspective. You see what that company can do for you, but do you see what you can do for that company? And I don't think a lot of people do that. So a lot of times when I reach out to brands, I know the value that I'm bringing, and that's when I reach out. That's when I shoot out an email and say, hey, this makes sense. Because I know the win for me, but I have to also show them the win for them as well. And that's how I get a lot of yeses a lot of times, by showing them that value early on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So with all the information you kind of know right now about the game, about comedy, and about general platform building, what would you tell yourself if you walked into a room and you sat down and you was consulting you 3 years ago?
Tell me 3 years ago, do what you say you're going to do.
Straight like that.
Just do what you say you're going to do. I can't even express the importance of that, of people, that goes back into consistency. You say you're going to call somebody at this time, call them at this time. You say you're going to email them something, email them something. I'm noticing so much of a breakthrough in my own growth of the company, because you look at it, it's myself. And definitely I have a team around, but there's a lot of responsibility, and that comes with just being able to do what you say you're going to do. And following through every step. And that's what I didn't have 3 years ago, just as strongly as I did now. And even in those projects that I spoke about earlier that I started off with, you speak about it, because we all have great ideas, I feel. I don't feel like I'm sure you had a multi-million-dollar idea.
Yeah.
All the time, right?
Yep.
You just, maybe at one point you maybe played with it and didn't follow all the way through. Then you look up on TV and you see this dude selling out the product that you just had in your mind.
That hurts.
So and that's the reality of it. Because I'm sure there's somebody selling those men's bracelets right now.
Yeah.
With pounds on him
Uh-huh.
world, and he's probably doing quite well, but he fell through. So I think that's how we get rewarded, by following through. And that's what I would tell myself 3 years ago: do what you say you're going to do.
Man, that's powerful, man. And my biggest question to that is, because I know there's a lot of people here that are involved in a lot of different projects, and I know you're involved in a lot of different projects in space. So how do you balance between kind of over promising? Cause I know you probably have a lot of requests and emails and stuff heading you every day for somebody maybe needing something from you now. Like the things tied, of course you're still leveling up, getting better and better, but you also have those people that are trying to get on, trying to get promotions, trying to get this, trying to get that. So how do you balance working on your projects, helping other people out, but making sure that you're not overcommitting or saying yes too many times? So then what used to be, oh, I got you, I'm gonna send this right here, turns into 3 days you send it, or whenever.
Right. I got two kind of answers to that. Right.
Okay.
So one is you got to know what's for you.
Mhm.
Right. You got to know what makes sense. So you got to know what makes sense to your vision that you have. What are you in this for? Right. And I think about that. So like you said, I got emails with all kind of stuff, but I know,
Uh-huh.
I know the vision. So I don't, if it doesn't make sense to the vision, I can't even entertain it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why would we entertain it? And kind of to transition to that, it's like I'm in the process right now where I'm just like locking down, where I'm not touching more than maybe the 6 projects I might have to really oversee right now, that I'm hands on with, and I'm not doing no more than that. And I think you got to be honest with yourself, that because you will get stretched out and you will have more ideas. Trust me, my ideas have not stopped. I got a bunch more ideas that I'm ready to kick off that I think is just as great as Comedy Hype, and I'm excited about those. But you gotta really stick to your vision, and you gotta be able to have, I think, some type of discipline as an entrepreneur when it comes to your ideas, to say, hey, this is what I believe in. Let's follow through this. Let's execute it, and then move on to maybe some other projects.
Man, I like that. That's some legit advice, man. But I know we talked about early in this show some new projects you have coming up for the next couple months, specifically. And I want you to share. So what do you have going on over the next couple months that people that are now hip to comedyhype.com and the vision that you want to share with the audience? And
yeah, I mean, for us, you look at what podcasts are doing. There's a big industry for podcasts, but more than anything, podcast is definitely rivaling stand-up. And this might be kind of an interesting perspective.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
people are going to pay to see certain people talk live. To be honest, what we're doing, to answer your question straight up, is that we're going to be getting more involved in podcasts. So we're launching a podcast network, which will feature probably trying to grow it up to at least 8 different channels of premium podcasts, where you get to get content from creators weekly. So that's for us. And the reason why I'm aggressive with that is because, honestly, I feel like I said, podcast is rivaling stand-up right now, where people are paying to see people do live podcasts. Even with your podcast, I'm sure as it grows, going to be one day, Greg, I don't know if you do it now, Greg, but you might be like, yo, I want to do a live event. So the following that we have that's listening to this, they can come out and watch this in person. And due to like what's going on, people are doing that. People are paying to see it. And to me, that is becoming the thing that rivals stand-up, especially with comedians doing it, because comedians are talking on stage anyway as far as their stand-up. So now it's an interesting place to see it, and people are down to listen. So the podcast network will be the newest for us. And maybe when this comes out, we'll be having a digital cover will be something that will also be released to give us more of a magazine feel.
Oh man, so you say digital cover for the website?
For the website, for Comedy Hype. So you start seeing comedians on covers. With the magazine, and that's something that has been a part of the vision that I think we definitely can execute now. It wouldn't take us long to get that out. So yeah.
Man, that's huge, man. And with that being said, like, what do you do to kind of, because I ask especially, I love to hear the answers from people in different spaces. So what do you do to stay ahead of the curve? Because I know having a podcast network, or even thinking about that right now, is huge. So what things do you do daily or monthly, or how do you stay hip to what's going on? Because as any business, especially when you're starting out, you can really be hot for a second, but then you start seeing doppelgangers. Like even myself. And I'm not to indict. If you're listening to this podcast, not to indict anybody, I'm all for it, because in the end of the day, I started this to push people of color that's doing good things. But then a couple months after I launched this, I saw a Trailblazers podcast. I saw the same type, and not to say I'm the first one to have it, but I'm talking even the same name. I'm like, damn. Yeah. But how do you stay?
To kind of even speak on that, there's two things where to even speak on that. What was the question? I want to speak on that though. Speak
on this. Speak on that, bro.
I think you going through that, dude, is a testament of one, you're doing something right. Right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to duplicate nothing that's whack. So that's one. Second is to combat against that, because that used to be my fear. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I used to be like, well, other people can do what I'm doing, but you know what? They can't. And that's what makes it special. When you Greg, I don't care if they got the same name. I don't care if they got the same suit on. Mm-hmm. And they picture like you. They can't do it like you. But there's a flavor that you're delivering. And that's something I had to tell myself, because I used to be like, man, certain companies got more money. There was times where I got approached by companies early on that were interested to like kind of buy me out in a sense, wanted me to do what I was doing for them. And there was a fear of saying, what if I tell them no? They got a couple million in the bank. I'm just, a young dude building this out of the house. And how do you, how do I compete against that? They can do this. They got millions. But guess what though? To be a testament of that, they haven't done it yet. And this is years later, and it's not even like being cocky about it, but nobody can do it like you. And I had to tell myself that, and that fear is gone. Like I know nobody, it's a certain flavor that we're all putting out there creatively with our businesses. So it don't matter what it is, nobody can do it like you. Back in Hawaii exposed me to a lot of different perspectives with culture and religion. And I think that's the biggest factor, exposure. Expose yourself to different stuff. What are you watching? Are you watching the same stuff on TV? Then your mind is going to be limited to the amount of stuff you get exposed to. You watching some new stuff. You got the internet now. You can look. You can see how they living in China now. So exposure, I think, is going to be my gift, or not my gift, but my key on like really kind of being ahead of the curve. Exposure. You see somebody's doing something that you haven't thought of yet. So won't you try to find that person? Won't you try to see what they're doing and then apply it to what you want to accomplish? And I think a lot of times we limit ourselves based off what we expose ourselves to. Are we willing to? My girlfriend gets on me. My girl gets on me a lot of times because I'm always eating different food when we go out. And that's just who I am. I like to expose and try different things out. And I think a lot of people don't do that. I feel like you miss out if you don't expose yourself to, to different things out here.
Yeah.
So that's why I say exposure, man.
I think that's critical, because I mean, even in this podcasting space or this blogging space, how I was able to kind of skip some steps early in the game, because I was exposed to people like Michael Hyatt, Marie Forleo, John Lee Dumas, all these guys they're white guys and white guys and white girls that are killing the game. But a lot of times they share blueprints. I'm on their webinars. I attended their conferences. So I know about taglines. I know how to drive different mediums and whatnot. And everybody that was already in the game before me and now reaching out to me for questions, but I've been exposed to their thought process, what they're doing, and now bringing it back to our culture, because sometimes it's kind of like cheating a little bit, because sometimes our culture, like you said, we are kind of, some of us, not a lot of these listeners, but some of us are kind of pigeonholed in one way of thinking. So you, like you said, you take that and adapt it, and then it takes off, man. So I love that vision. I love that vision, man. So another question though, because I know your background, like, did you ever have a regular job, or you always been an entrepreneur?
No, I definitely had my jobs, man. My first job actually was at the Gap. I just got out of high school. It was like maybe 2 years after that, I was working at the Gap in Birmingham. And this is when I stayed in Birmingham after moving from Hawaii. So moving from Hawaii to Birmingham, that was my first job ever. Let's see. After that, we moved to Atlanta. and I did some merchandising at Best Buy. Man, to be honest, you want one of them grimy stories?
Oh, sure. We all ears, bro.
My most grimy was I was cutting grass at a golf course. I had to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and drive an hour and a half. And this is when it was like bad for the kid. You know, this is when I was still building the Laughing Barrel, but this is when it was a grind. I had to get up, and I was staying with a friend at the time, and that was the quickest employment I had because I needed money. I had just moved back to Atlanta, I think, around then. And waking up and cutting grass and learning how to put nice lines into the greens.
Wow.
You know, and having to get checked on that when it wasn't straight. So that was probably my most grimiest job, just doing that. And I'm always surprised I did that. Yeah.
That's humbling. And while you were still building that business, right?
Yeah. Still responsibilities, you know. And then I worked at DHL overnight. I had a DHL hustle.
So
yeah. So, you know, and that's while you're maintaining and building your product and building your business.
Yeah, that's a story, man. So how do you deal with the ups and the downs of being an online? And I don't want to put you in a box, say an online entrepreneur. I'm not putting you in that box, but just in general, like when your baby though is a digital product. How do you deal with, because some months you might have X coming in for advertising and you might have these exclusive, you building on this, and then some months may not, the traffic kind of dries up a little bit, or things change and links change, or your main driver of what comes to your site, like say if it's Facebook, then they change their algorithms, or what if it was Instagram, they change. So how do you deal with all those changes and the highs and lows of having your business be kind of online for right now?
I think it goes back to what I expressed about expect the unexpected. There were like a lot of early times when I first started when the website would crash, right? When let's say, when it would crash, when it wouldn't be up, and you'd be like, where the heck is the website that I spent over 100 hours on? Where is that?
It hurts so much. You get that call, that see that text, like, yo, I tried to go. You like, what do you mean? That's me. Like, without website, like, what am I doing?
Calling the hosting people, like, yo, you know, you on phone for about half an hour waiting for an explanation on why the website that I've been working on is not up. So I took those early on, and that to me just kind of levels me out in a sense of coolness, where it's like, man, I expect the unexpected a lot of times. So I'm kind of always mentally prepared for it. That's how so if anything happens, this is what we play for. This is the game of entrepreneurship. You know, it's a give and take, right? We get freedom to be able to be our own bosses. At the same time, you got those responsibility of a boss, where you have to deal with different things that come up. So I'm already mentally in that mind state of, you know, expect the unexpected. Yeah.
You got any mentors in the game, man, or people that kind of help you with different decisions, or people you look up to in this space?
Not personally, and I wish I could do better at that. To be very honest with you, but I think whoever that is it's gonna trickle in. It's gonna probably be at the right moment. But people that I look up to, I can name some people.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a big Diddy fan.
Yeah.
I'm big on Puff. I don't know if people, and I'm gonna name another person that's kind of controversial at times. But for Puff, I like what he does. I like that he was able to kind of show us what we can do out here and how we can get it, and we can still have flavor to it. Because honestly, I want to have flavor as an entrepreneur. I want to be able to do these respected moves, but I still want to be the guy that you can go hang out with. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times you don't get to see a lot of that. Like, you don't get to see the cool guy who's able to really do some real business too. It's either one or the other. Yeah. You might see the guy that's really cool and he ain't got no business sense. Or you see the guy that's got all the business sense, but he's kind of a square to be around, to be honest. So I want to be kind of that similar person. And then by non-popular, and we probably got jokes about this, but Damon Dash is someone that I really paid attention to, much beyond his popular interviews that have gained a lot of attention. You study some stuff, he has some stuff online, and you can really look at jewels that he's giving, because he's you could tell he's very expressive. So he's being very transparent in his journey and grind, and at one point of having it all and not having it at one point. You know, it's those are guys that I kind of study from afar.
Wow.
And kind of see them. And yeah, I mean, I look at a lot. Like there's a dude named Oswald Boateng. He's a designer.
Oh yeah, I watched it. Oh man, his Netflix documentary is dope.
A Man's Story.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hip.
Tell me about it. Right, I gotta order that again. But like people like that, I think if I take us back maybe a question ago when I talked about exposure, I do think it's important to not limit yourself in your field. So I'm studying dudes who are not even in my field a lot of times. So I'm looking at a designer and I'm applying it through my lens. If I'm a tailor of this comedy stuff, how am I cutting it to you and giving it to the customer? I used to study the Chanel brothers.
Oh, wow. Okay. I never.
It's like two brothers. They own Chanel or something like that. Like, don't quote me on it verbatim, but like,
yeah.
There was like two brothers, and I used to peep them. And at one point, to be honest, I wasn't even jumping on interviews because they didn't jump on interviews. They was like got this whole mystique and all this stuff, but I kind of changed my mind over time, and I probably will limit the amount of interviews I do. But definitely when I see the importance of people getting a feel of who behind the brand is a little bit. They want to know who's who. And sometimes I definitely see how it helps. So, but yeah, Puff and Damon are those guys that I study from afar.
And I know before we get into the rapid fire round real quick, I did want to ask a question on that, because I know we talked about it earlier, and just peeping, a lot of people nowadays are trying to be in front of their businesses, and that's cool now. Everybody be in front. But I think even researching you selectively, you really are not, you really behind the scenes. So what in your head to say, okay, I know you don't want to first start jumping in front of it, because you say you model P. Diddy and Dame, but you know P. Diddy and Dame, they way in front, man. So what's your take on that?
For me, importance of presentation. The internet allows us definitely to present stuff the way we see it, the way we want other people to see it. And it was more of a strategy, and where it's not about you sometimes as an entrepreneur, which is funny. It's not about you sometimes, because people just want the product and they want a good product. Amen. So like I'm looking at like on my table on my desk right now, I got a bottle of Jergens lotions. I don't even know who owns Jergens lotions, but I know Jergens lotions is being sold around the world. You know, so just give us a good product. And that's kind of been my mind state. Just give the world a good product. I don't care about that success stuff, and I mean the famous stuff. That's not me, you know. That's just personally not me. And I think more trouble attracts that way if you constantly make yourself a target. You know, so I lay low and I make my moves, you know?
No, that's real, because it's crazy. I was listening to a church sermon the other day, actually this past Sunday, and the pastor said, your gift is not for you. And I thought about that, and I was like, that sounds deep. So I said, let me do some research. And I realized he kept talking. And I think you hit on the head. Like a lot of times we get it confused that, all right, say if my gift is public speaking, 'cause that's what I do full time. I'm a speaker. That's what keeps my gift wouldn't take it to the next level. It wouldn't help anybody if I didn't share it with other people. If I was out in there speaking, my gift, I can't motivate my dang self. So I got to be around people. And I think sometimes, especially now in this space where you have people that kind of do the same things, when people are going to my blog or whatnot, that's my first mistake when I first made the business. A lot of my content I was putting out was about myself. So at first it was cool, but then it was like, okay, people don't want to continue to come read about that. They want to read about how can they do something. And I was like, hold up, people are coming to me, asking me questions about how to become a speaker or do all this other stuff. And I thought they just want to know about me. It's like, no, Greg, they're looking at what you're doing because they're trying to do the same thing. And that's when I was like, that's when my business model changed. And that's how people can really support you and buy stuff from you. But your model might be a little different, but I know in my space it is. And I'm glad you kind of pointed that out, because sometimes when we get even asking for support for our friends. Like, if my friend says, Greg, I don't want to buy your book. Back in the day, I used to be hurt. I'd be like, man, what you mean you don't want to buy my book? Like, you my boy, but they didn't sign up when they became my friends to support my product. If that's not helping them in their life, then they shouldn't have to support it. So, how have you dealt with, with friends and family and throughout your entrepreneurship experience, kind of with that support and that give and take? Cause I know I never talked about it on a podcast, but I was like, I don't know why we haven't, because that's huge.
Dealing with friends and family as you're going through your entrepreneur process.
Yeah.
That's extremely huge.
Yeah.
Because, you plan, it's kind of crazy. And I think about it often, right? Because let's say everyone that's listening, I'm assuming it's going to be like entrepreneurs. It's crazy because the same people that might give you resistance as far as family is the same people you're going to ultimately be able to reward with this. It's, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The same people that's holding you back from that might can hold you back from that prize is the same people you ultimately thinking about, when I get the prize, I'm going to share it with y'all. I'm going to spread that wealth. And, that gets a little, I have my moments. I'll say that. I have my moments where you want your friends or your family, most importantly, a little bit more behind you than you might get it. But at the same time, it's been so consistent in how it happens. You just understand that's just part of it. And for me, I just know that, man, you know what? I stick to my vision. I'm not going to hold no ill emotions against the friends that didn't support me. I just know they don't know no better. I just look at it like that way. I don't know no better. Because they're going to be right there when you do win. But I feel, and that's fine. I ain't going to hold no grudge. I even think about, like my father, to be even more into my story. Like I saw him at 3, and he was, the last time I saw him at 3, and he was in jail. Wow. So I think about, those stories when your dad comes back into your life. How do you handle that? He ain't been around. He didn't come back. Him and my mother wasn't together, but how do you handle that? And honestly, I would show him love. I wouldn't get too crazy about it where it's like, nah, I can't rock with you. I would show him that love. And I think that's important. And when you deal with your friends and family, you just know that they do mean well a lot of times. My mother tells me stuff all the time. To be even more into it, she would, as I was doing it, she was sending me job applications.
Yeah.
As I was building my company, and you don't understand how crazy that is as an entrepreneur, because you're mentally in a place of, I'm trying to put myself on, and your mom is like throwing doubt at you. It was emails of doubt. Let's call it that. Emails of doubt. Every application she would forward to me or email me was a blow to my vision or me staying creative. And even, my mom doesn't know my day to day. She doesn't know about the moves I'm making. But in that process, in the early days, that would definitely kind of mess up it would mess up my vibe. Because you're already going through enough. And then now your friends and family are kind of hinting that, hey, I don't believe that you're going to be able to get this done. You might want to consider this job here, selling cell phones, and it's like, nah. And that's tough to deal with. So you got to be really mentally strong in this. You become a boss for real. You mentally strong and you endure.
No, you hit that on the head, because I know even on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I think we talked about this earlier in the show, when you start picking up a little buzz and people from the outside like, oh, Snap is trying to get on, and then it's like in your head, sometimes, especially when you have an online business or a business where majority of your stuff is pushed online, it takes a while for that buzz to translate into actually revenue and dollars. Like, it might take, especially in especially even in the regular comedy industry, a lot of these comedians, Leslie Jones, 20 years on the dang circuit, and she just now getting off. But people knew about her. People knew she was funny, but it took a while for her to finally get the acclaim, get the dollars. But now in the social media age, things are kind of advanced. So if you have an online space and they see thousands of followers, they see you're speaking it here, you're doing this, you're doing that, or the projects that you're working on, then sometimes people, family, friends, they think you're farther along than maybe you are as far as from a financial standpoint. I might just be talking to myself, but how do you, I know, but how do you stay as motivated and as locked in when you're like, at the end of the day, the bottom line still ain't moving, but you know, things are going to take off soon and you see what's coming and other people do, but sometimes it's not reflective of kind of maybe where you are.
You gotta accept the sacrifice. Man, I can't even express. I'm pretty much like a 0 to 100 type of dude. So if I'm rocking with it and I see the vision, I go in hard. I got a story when I got cut from my middle school team. I got cut, and I was so hurt by it because I put some practice in, and I know it was JV. I didn't get the JV team. And I was hurt by it because I was practicing and the coach was seeing me practice over the summer. And I remember just being like, you know what, man, I'm about to put it in and get it and put in some work over the summer again. And I ended up really locking in. And I remember the story being I was dribbling the ball over the summer and the guys that made the basketball team were out. I live by like an entertainment place with movie theaters and places to eat and all of that. And I remember dribbling the ball. Because I was practicing. This is on a Saturday night. I was dribbling down the sidewalk and I seen the guys that made the team and they were laughing like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you know, like they out kicking it. And here I am going down the sidewalk with the basketball. Like, yo, I'm focused. It just came down to remind me of sacrifice. And those are those moments when you have to get past it, when you have to really like sacrifice and understand it takes that. So, your question was what, more of leaning towards?
No, that was kind of answered more so. I think you nailed it on the head, just really embodying, remembering, because sometimes it's easy to remember. There's got to be it has to be some sacrifices made after a couple of years you put it in. It's easy to be like, yo, you in your head, you're like, yo, why am I doing this? Like Greg, you remind you, it's like when you sign that contract to do X, Y, and Z. Remind you, Greg, you signed up for this. Like you signed up to go on this entrepreneurship path where it might take a decade or it might take 2 decades. You don't know.
I was asked about like, yo, what is my greatest fear? Remember that. And you know what? My greatest fear has only been if I'm running in the wrong direction, because I'm a runner. And what I mean by that is like, yo, you with entrepreneurship is very unexpected, especially if you're trying to break ground, which is I feel what we're doing at Comedy Hype. We're definitely, no one's giving us the blueprint. We're creating that blueprint. So there are going to be people, like you said, with your show that's looking at your podcast, that's going to launch a podcast. But you being the innovator that you are, you being the one that's groundbreaking, Greg, you're going to be able to look back at this type of thing and know that what you're doing is that you're kind of the guy that's leading us through the darkness when it comes to this type of thing. So I kind of got everywhere with that, but it is about running. My fear is running in the darkness. And not running in the right direction. But as an entrepreneur, you have to understand that is a part of it. If you're going to do something great, you're going to be the first to do it. And you're going to have to do it in a different way. So you're going to be running a lot in darkness.
Yeah, the whole time. But I guess that adds a spice to the race. You have no choice but to keep going. Cause even when you get to that Mount Rushmore, there's still people and things trying to come at you, trying to grab it. So you got to be there.
Yeah. You have to be able to want to really run for, you're going to run for it. But like I said, it's very unexpected. You're not going to know who to do. You're not going to have somebody telling you do this, do that. It's the feel process. Trust your instinct. For the people that is listening, trust your instinct. You already know what you need to be doing. Just do it. That's all I can simply say is just to do it,
Well, so. I know we talked a lot about some of the obstacles and some of the challenges that you face growing up and then even in the entrepreneurship space. But what has been your proudest moment with comedyhype.com thus far?
Ooh,
I know it's kind of hard, but
That is a hard one. I will say a few years ago,
Okay.
we do these comedy hype lists where we drop like our hottest comedians, right? To get some buzz for comedians and get people talking about the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But one day I had an idea of, we should do like a round table, right? Where you know how Sway does it on MTV2 at times with hip hop.
Yeah.
Hip hop, you get all these people. And to me, the comedy game has never seen that before. And I was like, well, we have a great list that people talk about and anticipate. And I said, we need to get it. We need to get it a physical thing to look at. At that time, I didn't have no studio. I didn't even have like a great camera or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up really connecting some dots. And that's something that I'm doing so much better at, where I reached out to a company in LA. This is from Atlanta, let I mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like my website, right? And I just contacted them in LA. They shot it for us. They edited it.
Wow.
And then I was able to arrange like different people to talk about the comedy game from Atlanta with my cell phone.
Uh-huh.
And was able to get these people to speak about it at the studio in LA. And it was like a grand production that I did from my crib. I produced it at the time. Bernard was with me. Bernard that I mentioned was a part of it.
Uh-huh.
But for the most part, that was all me connecting these dots from Atlanta, getting these prestigious people in LA to talk about the comedy game in the studio, all off of just communicating and having some value to bring too, to answer a previous question you asked,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what value I was bringing to them as well. That to me was a proud moment, because it kind of showed me that, dang, Jay, you can make stuff move out here.
Man,
yeah.
That's freaking huge, man. And to that question, I know I haven't asked this question the whole time, but I'm always interested to hear. Nowadays, would you say nowadays it's a little harder to break into the comedy scene, because I can only see online. I mean, there's only a handful of comedians that I can, especially of color, that I can really see, and I really don't see too much young talent. So, do you want your site to be the precipice of sharing any and all things comedy, underground comedy, the people that's on top? Like, what is that? First of all, the first question is about finding young talent, and then the second is, what do you want your space to, as far as having a space in that, like all comedy or underground or the mix?
Right. You know what's so crazy? Like the internet, the way that comedy hype is approaching is changing as well. So those different things, at one point, that's what we were at. When we started at the Laughing Barrel, I think it was more of an underground feel that got a lot of guys into it. As we migrated to comedy hype, now it has more of your headliners, right? That has more of the guys that have big names, that already have the credits. So we've played it in different aspects. And right now, I definitely think it's important to show love to new generation always, because that's important for the culture.
Yeah.
I think that's important for our industry. Even guys that might do it similar as comedy hype, there's other platforms that do comedy related content. They're important to win as well. I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like, competition is needed. Yeah. I love competition. It's going to thrive our industry. And we need more outlets. We need more outlets like a comedy hype to be able to push these new names out there. So to kind of answer it, yeah, I definitely think it's important to push out these new guys. For our space, we definitely want to do that. We want to break new names. We have the comedy album coming up with Dino Archie. He's in Vancouver. He's in Vancouver, Canada, originally from Fresno. And hopefully him partnering with our website is going to be able to get him some more, more buzz on his name. So we definitely want to break. At the same time, we want to continue being the leader in comedy news reporting. And that's just not urban as well, not just urban, but all around comedy, because you're going to see everyone on our site, from Adam Sandler's to Will Ferrell's to Zach Galifianakis, all those dudes. We try to cover everybody, but it is an urban-based platform as well.
Man, I like that. And it's crazy. I think I know comedians back in the day are probably hating on some of the comedians now, because now you could utilize like social media, and if you're effective, to really get a crazy buzz without really having to go the old route of going, okay, working those clubs. And I seen guys, and they're comedians, they're funny guys, but they're not even stand up. And now they're breaking the mold. Like even one of my growing up, my best friend, Carlos Sanford, famous Lowe's 32, went from freaking just doing videos about random videos that black people like, whatever. And now he's 500,000 subscribers. 500,000 follows on Instagram. He's in LA. He's all over the place, and he don't do a lick of stand up. He just create funny videos. And now him and Brandon Austin, those guys, they're taking off, and brands are starting to get around them. So it's crazy how it's changed.
It changed a lot. But that's just, man, to speak on that, there's so many different ways to look at it because I am protective of the stand-up game.
Okay.
I want that to continue to be a place where we can get our laughs from. At the same time, I can't deny the memes that crack us up on a daily basis. I can't deny the funny skits that people are making at the crib. And that is part of our comedy. That is part of our laughter. So I'm kind of like, I want to see the stand-up thing be preserved because I respect it. You know, it's something that we really vouch for. We're a comedy website. And a lot of times we weren't even trying to just stay strictly stand-up and not trying to jump on that bandwagon of, okay, this is the in stuff now. But just to see the consistency of it, this is some new form of comedy that we can't deny, you know, and that's the people have spoken. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question as far as what was your question?
I was just speaking, so you answered. I was just talking in general because I was looking, I was like, yo, this is a whole new wave, and I know it has to in the comedy industry. These stand up guys are like, yo, what these dudes are in a year's time getting all these cosigns.
There's always been beefs, right? There's always been like problems of comedians. At first, there was a lot of problems they had about these guys popping up out of nowhere. You got veterans that have been in the game for 16 plus years, you know, driving city to city, you know, sacrificing some real sacrifice, staying in motels. I did an interview with this comedian named T. Ray Sanders. He got shot after his comedy show.
My goodness.
Several times. So, you know, the kid at home that's doing these skits doesn't have to go through that type of route. But at the same time, I gotta respect it because, you know, that's what it is. And, you know, that's the industry. That's where we're at right now. That's just where we at.
Hey, that is where we're at, man. So as we transition into our last round, the culture change round, man, I got 5 questions that I'm about to answer, and you can answer them how you want. All right?
Okay.
All right. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
That the experience is going to teach you. You can't even understand some of that advice you get until you're in it. I've gotten stuff and had to replay it like that's what he meant when he told me this. Years later. You get what I'm saying?
That's the real man. I'm matter of fact, I'm gonna make sure that I quote you when I say that. But that's the realest. That's one of the realest responses I've got because that's it. I mean, you can give all the advice to somebody in the world, but if dude's 5 years old, he gonna be like, okay, yeah. But it really takes those experience. I can give you advice on freaking speaking to elementary and middle school kids. If you don't speak to elementary and middle school kids now, then it don't matter.
Right.
So that's real. Right. That's real. Who is your favorite comedian and why?
Favorite comedian? Are you gonna, okay.
Yeah, I had to put. Can I even ask that question? Because you're a comedy site. Can you answer that?
No, I can't. I mean, I don't want to be all political either. Who really got me? And I don't want to give you no cliche stuff, man. Who got me really? Man, I don't like you for this one. Because I know everybody's listening. What is he gonna say?
The comedy guy, like what was it?
The comedy guy, man. Dang, man. You know what? I'm gonna go with I got a collective, but I'll just go with a guy that's not with us anymore. That's Patrice O'Neal.
Ooh, who's that?
Patrice O'Neal. He did his last special was Elephant in the Room. He passed away a couple years ago. Big dude. He's got a. You should definitely, if you haven't heard of Patrice, for those that are listening yourself, Greg, definitely Google him. Very raw, very honest. I think I say him because I feel like he was on his way when he passed away. From like, like I believe it was a heart attack or stroke of some sort. Yeah, he's kind of like, to me, like a Biggie in a sense. You know, we all know the greats already, but like Biggie was great because he kind of passed away during the plight. Patrice was finally getting that look and that love, and he ended up passing away. So people that definitely Patrice O'Neal, I would have to say, for that.
Oh yeah, I know. I just pulled up his name. I know his face. I remember seeing him on TV.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of stuff, and he used to do VH1 stuff a lot. But I didn't really become a big fan actually until like he passed, which is always crazy when you really value and you really pay people more attention when they're no longer with us. But yeah, he definitely, it would have been exciting to see what he would have become.
That's real. That's real, man. So, what is your favorite movie or book and why?
Favorite movie and book? Okay, movie, book. I'm gonna jump into a movie. Favorite movie would have to be Benjamin Button right now. That's my most favorite recent movie. And why? If you peep that movie, he had multiple lives. He was living through different lenses, and I like that aspect of being able to experience this one life through different lenses and seeing it through different perspectives. And I really, I've always gravitated towards that movie. Just a storyline of this dude on a life quest, his own journey, being old and then living young, and then, working on a boat to chasing this young woman across the world that he was in love with. And man, that put life in perspective for me of just the journeys that we're all on. So yeah.
Nah, that's deep, dog.
Yeah. And I gotta answer the book thing too.
I meant to say or, so you good.
Okay.
Unless you had a book that just jumped in your mind.
A book that jumped in my mind, nah. Because and it goes back into this experience thing. Like, I'm big on that. I'm big on the experience aspect of everything. So I used to read a lot of entrepreneur books, but it didn't speak to me as strong as it did with me jumping out there. Yeah. So.
Nah, that's real. And plus you can spend, and plus those books are seductive because they make you think like you're making progress. Like, I just read Warren Buffett's, I just read Steve Jobs, like I'm inspired, and then you just keep reading them, and it's like you're not creating nothing.
Yeah.
And our last two is what inspires you the most and keeps you motivated?
What inspired me the most and keeps me motivated? Man, why do I do this? Yeah. Honestly, I think I'm crazy. I think and entrepreneurs the listening will understand with that statement. I'm inspired by the possibilities, man. I'm a visionary. I'm a dreamer. So I've already seen the life that I want, and mentally I'm there a lot of times. I think that's another jewel of playing the game on the level that you already see yourself as. So a lot of times I play on that level. So I already think about, I got the yacht, or I can travel and I could see the different things, and my life is the way I want it to be. Like, it's just that in your spirit. Like, I believe Puff got this thing on YouTube and he talks about this. If you Google it, it's called like Diddy Black and White. But he just broke down talking about believing. Believe in your heart. Do you really believe in your heart that you're gonna be able to do this, whatever it is you're gonna do? And I can relate to that. I believe in my heart, dog. You know how much stuff we go through. Even yourself with the accident, you believe in your heart that what I'm doing is right, because you could have been like, well, that was the final blow. I'm good. I need to chill out and figure something else. That could have discouraged you. But the fact you hear, about 2 weeks later, you look like you was doing some stuff before that. That you back at it. You believe in your heart, and that's where I'm at. I believe, dog. I'm already there. I'm already on At the crib.
I love that, man. I love that. So, and the last question that round, man, this is like if you were the president of the United States, what is the first thing you would do?
That would be empowering others. That would be making other people, giving other people a sense of pride within themselves. I think a lot of bad stuff that happens could kind of switch if people really had pride within themselves and how they felt, especially us as minorities. I look to one day really make us feel good about who we are. And hopefully people like yourself, people like myself that's out here moving and grooving and going to really shift things and make other people that see us, the youngins coming up can see us and be like, damn, I could be like Greg, you know, and then seeing that, and you can be like a real life superhero to them. So, you know, for us, that to me is what I would do as a president. I would educate people on who they are, teach them, you know, their possibilities and what they're capable of, and keep them inspired. So that's what I would do with my power.
Oh, man, I love that answer. Love that answer, man. And to wrap it all up, I call myself the culture change agent, and I always try to ask at every end of the show, our last question of every single show is, if you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why? Man,
the answer I gave you.
Yep.
I would give more knowledge of self, more of us of really knowing what we're capable of, giving us a sense of pride that we African Americans, we dope.
Straight up.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we dope. And we can't let nobody persuade us about that. And you got to be able to see with your eyes now. The Olympics just ended this year, and you saw us out there dominating on the world standpoints. You look at us doing all these great things. You can't deny us from our greatness, you know. And so I want us as a people to know that how great we are. And then that with that greatness, we don't do certain things. We're kings, we're queens, as they say, right? Kings and queens don't do certain activities. So the bull crap that ain't uplifting us, that's beneath you, dog. Don't even do that. Leave that crap alone, you know. And then all the other stuff, when we want respect from these other people, they're going to give it to us because they got to see it, because we out here really doing a great job. So I want us to focus more on our greatness. That's it. We great. You great. You listening? You great.
I love that, man.
That's black or white too.
Yep, because
for our minorities listening, you're great. Take that.
Take that, man. So, hey, man, I tell you, it's been a phenomenal interview, man. Sharing your story, sharing a lot of stuff, man. We talked about a lot of great things, man. So for our audience and everybody else that want to hear more about comedyhype.com or know more about the upcoming projects, what you got shaking, where can they find you at, man?
We'll definitely go to the main hub, comedyhype.com. We're on Twitter at comedyhype_. Personally, for myself, I have an Instagram account. It's at jwill_night, as in KNIGHT. As far as that, we're on Facebook and, you know, pretty much everywhere else the World Wide Web has to offer.
Amen. So guys, go ahead and make sure we'll have all those links in the show notes, but make sure you go check out comedyhype.com. They got the podcast network popping off. They got the album launching. They got everything comedy that you want to have. You want to get your laugh in. You want to know what's the new in the comedic sphere. Make sure you go check it out like that. So without further ado, Minority Trailblazing Nation, we want to say thank you for coming on the show.
Most def. Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. Thank you, Minority Trailblazing Nation, for tuning in for another episode of the Minority Trailblazer Podcast. You already know what I need you to do. First, if you're listening all the way through, please make sure you leave a review on iTunes. Please make sure you follow us on SoundCloud, share with a friend, and I pray that you enjoyed the episode. I look forward for you tuning in next week, and as always, I need you to do one thing and one thing only outside leaving a review. That's change the freaking culture. Good night.